So, hi and welcome. My name is Steve Pugh. I run something called the Growth Strategy Podcast. And what I try and do is talk to interesting people I think can help your business or career. Today, I'm actually trying something new. I'm speaking to Amy Sergison from Muckle LLP. And what I'm going to start to do is talk to interesting people I believe have genuine value to share, often about interesting topics, but especially topics which are relevant to you and your business at the moment. One of which we're going to talk about is all to do with the EU settlement scheme, which is happening after Brexit. And the reason why I think it's really important to talk about is this will have genuine impact for a hell of a lot of businesses UK wide. And although I could talk about it, I thought I would get the expert on to do it. So Amy, would you like to say hi to everyone and almost introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, lovely to be here. Thanks for having me, Steve. As Steve mentioned, I'm an employment and business immigration lawyer at Muckle LLP, and I'm delighted to be here this morning.
So would you like to tell people about the EU settlement scheme and what it is and almost the impact it can have?
Of course, I think it's really important to understand, obviously, Brexit feels like such a long time ago when this all started. We've been through an awful lot over the past year. As we got to the end of the Brexit transition period at the end of December last year, any EU citizens, so when I talk about EU citizens, I mean those workers who come from the EU and also Liechtenstein, which I can never spell, Iceland, Norway and Switzerland, to remain in the UK and to live and work as migrant workers, they now need to apply to the EU settlement scheme and have until the 30th of June in order to be able to do so. So in order to be able to be eligible for that, they have to have been living in the UK by the 31st of December. And I should say as well, obviously I'm thinking of this from an employment perspective because I'm an employment lawyer, but equally this applies for anyone who just lives in the UK and wants to remain here. So any EU member or migrant who wants to remain here after the 30th of June. These workers have until the 30th of June to apply, and if they don't, from the 1st of July 2021, they need to have some kind of alternative immigration permission to remain in the UK, which is a massive, massive change to our immigration regime. So it's estimated that approximately 450 million people who would normally have been able to just migrate to the UK and live and work here without any additional restriction are now going to need to have some kind of alternative immigration permission to do so. So it's a really big change for our immigration regime.
Oh, cool. Have you got a feel for, how widely this could impact kind of Northeast businesses in terms of, is overseas, jobs and employment a big thing?
Yeah, I think it is going to hugely impact quite a lot of our regional organisations. So what typically will happen if somebody doesn't have the right to work in the UK, they'll look to be sponsored from their organisation as a skilled worker, and the rules around skilled workers and sponsors changed as well in autumn last year. So it's slightly easier to sponsor people, but they must be at a suitably skilled level. So for a lot of organisations that have a lot of EU workers that work in their warehouse function and the care sector, there are going to be quite a lot of individuals there who don't tick that box of being suitably skilled for the purposes of those new immigration rules. So that potentially could have a really big impact upon organisations, things like bar staff, waiting staff as well, who would normally just be able to come and work here, aren't going to be able to do that as easily.
So if you're an employer, what happens if they don't apply, they don't fill in the forms? Worst case, are they asked to leave? Are they deported?
Yeah, so if they don't do that by the 30th of June, then they don't have the right to work in the UK, so they would be here illegally. So what we're doing with a lot of organisations is just working with them to make sure that they're promoting understanding about the EU settlement scheme, because it's quite worrying that a lot of people don't actually realise that this is happening. It's a big change, and for some people who might be here with permanent residence, or they might be married to or partner to someone who's an EU citizen or a resident in the UK, they might not necessarily still have the right to work here, so they might still need to apply. So I think promoting that and encouraging people and helping them to make the applications, making an Android phone or an iPhone available to them so they can have a go themselves and support them with that is really important.
Are there any costs to apply?
It's absolutely free to apply, and provided you don't have any criminal convictions, it should be fairly straightforward. I think in terms of statistics recently, there's about 5.3 million people who've applied since the scheme opened last year under this, and there's about, on average, 3% of those that are either they fail, they're withdrawn, or they're not done correctly. But that's actually quite a big number. That's kind of
Yeah.
150,000 people who aren't getting through. So having the support and the understanding and awareness of employers, I think, is really, really important.
And especially from a business risk point of view,
Of course.
you kind of probably want to get this sorted as quick as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're working with lots of organisations and helping with this. We've been kind of preparing and sharing documents on what to do and how to do it, kind of helping from an advisory perspective and understanding what needs to be done, and also helping organisations to kind of future plan and future plan for their talent requirements. You want to make sure that you can get the best people to work for you going forward. So I think mapping out what you're looking for, auditing your workforce to understand who might be impacted by this and who might need some support, but equally where you might have recruitment need going forward and how you need to cover that. So do you need to think about a sponsor license? And lots of organisations are now frantically applying to get those, to make sure that from July time they can still secure talent as quickly as they possibly can. So we help with all elements of business immigration, and particularly at the moment trying to get people to have their sponsors licenses in place so that when they get to July this year, we're good to go. The devil really is in the detail with the documents, so they've got to be absolutely perfectly meeting the requirements, otherwise they will fail, and then your application won't be successful. And because there are so many organisations who are now thinking about this and putting in applications, we've obviously got that COVID bottleneck of people panicking, so it can take a little bit longer to get things set up. So it's all very doable, all very manageable, but it just needs a bit of careful thought and planning to get it done right.
Yeah. Well, considering we're in May and this happens in June, from a business risk point of view,
yeah,
it's kind of quite important.
It is very important, yes, very important. And I'd encourage anyone who's thinking about things or not sure what they need to be doing, just to get in touch. And happy to have a chat and need to guide you through whatever needs to be looked at. But it is really important to think about this, because ultimately you could be in a bit of a pickle in July if you haven't thought this through, and you could be at risk of losing some really good employees.